Bomma le botate, molokoloko wa dirutegi o tla tsena mo nakwaneng ye kopana. Le kgopelwa go ema.
Dames en here, die akademiese prosesie sal nou inbeweeg. U word versoek om asseblief op te staan.
Ladies and gentlemen, the academic procession will now enter. You are kindly requested to stand.
By the power vested in me, I hereby constitute this assembly as a legal congregation of the University of Pretoria. During this assembly, degrees with all the associated rights and privileges will be conferred to the candidates whose names appear on the program. Please take your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, we request you to join us in silent prayer or meditation to give thanks for the achievements of our students. Thank you. Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as Chancellor of the University of Pretoria, it's my pleasure to welcome everybody here. And I wish in particular to welcome the following: the Registrar, Professor C. Nicholson, the Dean of the Faculty, Professor E. Skuman, the Deputy Dean, Professor C. Maimela, chairpersons of schools, heads of departments, directors and honorary professors and other lecturers and their spouses. A representative of the Student Representative Council who will present the SRC Academic Honorary Colors. All persons to whom degrees will be conferred this afternoon. All spouses, parents, and everybody that is here, you are all welcome. It's my honor and privilege to make a few remarks, congratulatory remarks to the graduates today and to welcome everybody. I have to, because everybody is sitting to my right, except a few on this side. I'm not sure how to stand, really. Ladies and gentlemen, I warmly welcome you to today's graduation ceremony, where many of us are finally able to come together again to celebrate this wonderful, life-changing experience. Over the past 2 very difficult years, you, our soon-to-be graduates, have seized every day, you have risen to the challenge of online learning in order to ensure that you get over the finishing line. Your place here today is well deserved. While online learning was certainly an imperative for education during the pandemic, it came with many challenges and hardships, including academic, social, and economic ones. And we are well aware of what you have to face to get here. As with all difficulties, getting to grips with online learning and digitalization has been an invaluable part of your journey and UP's journey. It will forever be part of our educational landscape and of the work landscape that you will soon be inhabiting. The beauty of digitalization and the 4IR is that it has given all of us far greater access to the world, which was previously restricted to physical engagement. Of course, the online world does not replace face-to-face interaction, as the excitement of all being able to gather here today attests. And we look forward to having the choice of both the digital and the physical reality. It is not an easy world that you enter. It was not an easy world that I entered as a graduate many years ago. In every era, we face huge challenges and crises. What the pandemic has done in this era, as we have said many times, is to highlight that it is not only a disease crisis, it is a crisis of society, of the economy, of sustainability and well-being, and of governance in our country, continent, and globally. It is a big wake-up call to think and do differently, with university graduates playing an essential role in co-creating the future we all want. As you head into the future, be it in your chosen career or in pursuit of postgraduate studies, each of you have the education and power to continue to substantially change society and communities for the better, in line with the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals and the African Union's Agenda 2063. Among the goals is a call for action to address poverty, inequality, the educational crisis, and to stop the destruction of the natural environment on which we all depend. Quality higher education and knowledge creation are fundamental building blocks in achieving this and to contributing to job creation, employment, and economic growth, all of which are essential for a more stable, just, and prosperous society. At UP, we regard this as a calling because the success of one is the success of all, as expressed through the philosophy of Ubuntu, a philosophy which is part of our African DNA. Another core UP goal is to tirelessly work at becoming more diverse and inclusive knowledge society. Diversity and inclusion at UP includes, but is not limited to, demographics or narrowed down to race. Demographics are important in transformation, but diversity and inclusion extends to gender, disability, sexual orientation, different beliefs and intellectual ideas, as well as embracing people from our continent and the rest of the world. As an engaged university, this is essential because we're an anchor institution in our communities with a direct influence and impact on the culture, attitudes, economy, safety and security, well-being and sustainability of our people and environment. UP is proud of having run successful community engagement programs for over 15 years. In 2020, 32,841 of our students were directly involved in community projects as part of their curriculum. In addition, more than 126 of our student organizations are involved in voluntary social responsibility projects. Obviously, the pandemic affected this, but hopefully we can resume this to capacity again. Because for us, community engagement and social responsibility is not an add-on, it is an integral part of who we are, and we have no doubt you will take this forward as you proceed in your careers. Another integral part of who we are is our ethos of no student is left behind. Apart from looking at innovative solutions to financial constraints, we have to play our part in increasing the quality of school-level education, especially in maths and science, and to ensure that our graduates have all the skills they need to succeed in the world of work. It pleases me enormously to see how committed University of Pretoria is to our graduates being not only eminently employable, but also being able to start their own businesses. Entrepreneurship is now widely recognized as being as important in higher education as postgraduate studies and as a major driver of innovation. The university fosters entrepreneurial skills through its entrepreneurship programs, business incubators, and small business development portals. The research and development exposure that our students gain, particularly in postgraduate studies, coupled with the knowledge of how to create, grow, and sustain a business, equips them to enter the market as startup or small business owners. This is also a catalyst for UP becoming an entrepreneurial university. While internationalization of large corporations is long established, the linking of small businesses to international value chains and markets is a rising trend. To be part of this, our tax innovation ecosystem provides specialized support to entrepreneurs throughout their startup and growth journeys. And it is available to those of you who pursue this avenue. Ecosystems like tax innovation leverage innovative thinking and personify the UP spirit of new energies and new times. An exciting reality is that a world of opportunity has opened in the borderless, digitalized environment. It enables a new form of internationalization that potentially provides far greater access than ever before. And so, while it is not an easy time, it is a fascinating time for you. our graduates to be pursuing your careers, backed up by the best possible higher education qualification. Whichever career you pursue, you can do so with the utmost confidence as a graduate of the University of Pretoria. I thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's now time that I invite the Dean to present the names that appear, the candidates who are going to be receiving degrees this morning. Okay. It's the afternoon, by the way.
Mr. Chancellor, the names of the doctoral candidates will now be presented to you by the Dean and the supervisors. Mr. Chancellor, I present to you Alero Fenemigo, who has complied with all the requirements for the degree Doctor of Laws, with a thesis under the supervision of the late Professor Haynes and co-supervised by Professor Maslin. In this thesis, the use of force in counter-terrorism, policing in Africa under international law, the candidate addressed the fragmentation of international law on the use of force, demonstrating understanding of the intricacies of the law of enforcement and the law of armed conflict. Every affirmation was evidenced and underpinned. The candidate's use of the 3 case studies, Egypt, Kenya, and Nigeria, gave the study stark contemporary relevance, bringing to the fore critical challenges to the rule of law as terrorism sweeps parts of the continent, heaping misery on the powerless. The candidate's identification of the gaps and weaknesses in the regional governance structure and mechanisms generated the basis for her recommendations. This will serve as a vademecum for future action in Africa to restrain the painful excesses of counter-terrorism operations. Mr. Chancellor, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree, Doctor of Laws, on Alero Fenemigo with all associated rights and privileges. Congratulations.
Mr. Chancellor, I present to you Joseph Ging, who has complied with all the requirements for the Doctor of Laws, with a thesis completed under the supervision of Professor Kilanda. In this thesis, Foreign Influence and the Legitimacy of Constitution Building in South Sudan, the candidate applied a novel analytical framework, 3-stone legitimacy theory, to analyze the considerable foreign influence on post-conflict constitution building. He found that foreign influence in constitution building contexts, such as that of South Sudan, is historical, inevitable, and at times necessary. However, constitutional contextualization is imperative to enhance acceptance of a new constitution as external norms, values, and practices would have been discussed and culturally justified, rather than being arbitrarily transplanted into diverse domestic, social, political, and cultural contexts. Mr. Chancellor, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Laws on Joseph Gang with all associated rights and privileges. Congratulations.
Mr. Chancellor, I present to you Primrose Kurasha, who has complied with all the requirements for the degree Doctor of Laws with a thesis completed under my supervision. In this thesis, Cross-Border Commercial Litigation, the Jurisdictional Challenge, the candidate investigated South Africa's legal framework relating to jurisdiction clauses in the context of cross-border commercial litigation with a view to establish South Africa as a neutral litigation venue. The study juxtaposed South Africa with the United Kingdom, the European Union, and the United States of America, where jurisdiction clauses are extensively given effect to. The aim was to benchmark South Africa against best practice and develop this part of private international law in line with global trends to advance access to justice and uniformity of result. The study argued for the development of a legal framework governing jurisdiction clauses in the context of international commercial litigation, mirroring the development of South Africa as a neutral international arbitration venue. The candidate concluded with recommendations also emphasizing the desirable scenario of cross-border commercial litigation working in tandem with the already developed international arbitration dispute resolution regime. Mr. Chancellor, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Laws on Primrose Kurasha with all associated rights and privileges. Congratulations.
I now call on Professor Cornelius to introduce the next candidate.
Mr. Chancellor, I have the privilege to present to you Tetiwe Nomalanga Mashinini, who completed her doctorate with the thesis, The Recognition of Image Rights in the Context of Memes Shared on Social Media, under my supervision. In the thesis, the candidate investigated the South African legal framework on image rights protection and social media regulation to determine whether the law protects image rights in a social media context. The thesis also examined the debate on whether the unauthorized use of a person's image in a meme violates the right to privacy or identity. The thesis determined what damage or gain would have to be proven for an individual to succeed with a claim for the violation of image rights in a social media meme. It also discussed the principles for determining the wrongdoers concerning social media memes. The original contribution of this thesis is the interpretation of commercial gain received through memes posted on social media. It was argued that the concept could be developed in the social media context to protect image rights in the social media context. An economically and socially advanced interpretation of commercial gain is important to ensure that the right to identity remains enforceable against violations on social media. Mr. Chancellor, I now request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I now confer the degree Doctor of Laws on Tetiwe Nomalanga Mashinini with all associated rights and privileges. Congratulations.
Mr. Chancellor, I introduce to you Felix Ebene Mpande, who have complied with all the requirements for the degree Doctor of Laws, with a thesis titled Director Civil Liability During Corporate Insolvency, the Legal Framework, Relevance and Efficacy of the Wrongful Trading Rule in Malawi, completed under my supervision and the co-supervision of Professor Harry Rajak, an Emeritus Professor at the University of Sussex. In his thesis, the candidate examined the legal framework, relevance and efficacy of the wrongful trading rule that is new to the Malawian jurisprudence. As the primary purpose of his research, the candidate defined the legal framework of the rule for Malawian law. In doing so, and with a comparative and interpretive approach, the candidate discussed the origin of the rule, its aims, the timing of an action for wrongful trading, the meaning of director for purposes of wrongful trading, the defenses, the remedies, and funding of the proceedings. As a secondary purpose of this research, the candidate interrogated the rule's relevance and efficacy. Finally, he proposed recommendations for further reform of the rule. This study is of value since it establishes a systematic theoretical framework that could guide the courts when they have to consider matters arising from wrongful trading situations in future. It could also assist the Malawian legislature in further improving the current legal dispensation. Mr. Chancellor, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree, Doctor of Laws, on Felix Ebenet Mpande with all associated rights and privileges. Congratulations.
Mr. Chancellor, the candidates that I will present to you now have all complied with the requirements for the degree Master of Laws by dissertation. Gerard Demper. Christina Greiling. Simon Matthias with distinction. Jacobus Nieuwoud with distinction. Todd Skinner. Chrisley Thomas with distinction. Marcia van der Merwe with distinction. Mr. Chancellor, the candidates that I will present to you now have all complied with the requirements for the Master of Laws by coursework. Vusi Musimusi Rakotswane, LLM in Banking Law. Ipeleng Tswana Matsi, LLM in Banking Law. Dominique Mazwi, LLM in Child Law. Ushia Ayer, LLM in Constitutional and Administrative Law. Seguela, LLM in Corporate Law. Ishmael Satati, LLM in Corporate Law. Abiola Yusuf, LLM in Corporate Law. Dedintle Mokotedi, LLM in Estate Law. Laurette van der Merwe, LLM in Insolvency Law. Inge Sieberhagen, LLM in Insurance Law and Governance. Wandile Zulu, LLM in Insurance Law and Governance. Kiara Depree, LLM in Intellectual Property Law. Stefanus Norkier, LLM in International Airspace and Telecommunications Law. Anil Opperman, LLM in International Airspace and Telecommunications Law. Vaughan Rousseau, LLM in International Law with distinction. Tobile Ntuli, LLM in Labour Law. Pooja Pundit, LLM in Labour Law with distinction. She also receives the SA Society for Labour Law Prize for the Best Student in the LLM Labour Law Programme. Julius Venka, LLM in Labour Law. Numpumelelo Dludla, LLM in Law of Contract. Daniela Basso, LLM in Mercantile Law with distinction. Nadia Hutting, LLM in Mercantile Law with distinction. Rihanna Eunice, LLM in Mercantile Law. Henri Locke, LLM in Mercantile Law. Danao Maluleka, LLM in Mercantile Law. Kabasele Nkombua, LLM in Mercantile Law. Kananelo Sananka, LLM in Mercantile Law. Khalipa Shange, LLM in Mercantile Law. Adelaide Chahopa, LLM in Multidisciplinary Human Rights. Cynthia Mauma, LLM in Multidisciplinary Human Rights. Chanel van der Linde, LLM in Multidisciplinary Human Rights. Cliff Flatswayo, LLM in Procedural Law. Irene Mpofu, LLM in Procedural Law. Benta Muranga, LLM in Sexual and Reproductive Rights. Leonie Nezi, LLM in Sexual and Reproductive Rights. Boipelo Nakedi, MPhil in Multidisciplinary Human Rights. Kubela Mamabolo, LLM in Labour Law. Thank you, Chancellor.
Well, thank you very much to the Dean and to the heads of departments. As we are now coming to the end of the program, may I request the parents, the friends, the relatives to give our new graduates a big round of applause. Now I request the graduates to respond. Well, we've come to the end. Now you are requested to stand for the singing of the national anthem and to remain standing until the assembly has been dissolved and the academic procession has left the auditorium. And now we'll sing the national anthem. Dissolve this assembly of the University of Pretoria. Thank you.